Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Which is worse, being frozen out of a $10,000 wedding you bankrolled, or being blocked from the Caribbean because you tried to prevent a disaster? Today in the rLounge, when doing the right thing becomes a thankless performance. Up first, paying for someone else's happiness. Sounds noble, right? 10 grand later, you're not a brother, you're an afterthought. Brother blocked me from his wedding ceremony, so I canceled the church booking I paid for. I got a call from my brother announcing his engagement to his girlfriend of 3 years. They'd been together through some rough patches, but seemed happy enough. He asked me to be his best man, which I accepted without hesitation. We celebrated over drinks that weekend, and he mentioned wanting a summer wedding at St. Andrew's Church, the same place our parents got married. He seemed excited about carrying on the family tradition. A week or so later, my brother and his fiancée met me for lunch to discuss wedding plans. It became pretty obvious they were struggling with finances. The church booking alone was going to cost them $10,000, which they couldn't afford. Since I was in a good financial position, I offered to pay for the church booking as my wedding gift to them. The relief on their faces was immediate. His fiancée even hugged me, saying how much it meant to them. I called St. Andrew's Church shortly after and discovered they had a cancellation for mid-July. Perfect timing. I paid the $5,800 deposit with my credit card and texted my brother the good news. Everything seemed great. A few weeks later, I attended the first wedding planning dinner with my brother, his fiancée, and her parents. Her parents were cold toward me, barely acknowledging my presence throughout the dinner. My brother acted differently around them too, more formal, less like himself. I noticed his fiancée's mother making comments about family values and proper connections while glancing my way. I paid the remaining $4,200 balance for the church booking soon after. Total, $10,000. I sent the receipt to my brother, but his response was just a quick thanks, with no offer to meet up or discuss further plans. When we finally met to discuss best man duties, my brother seemed uncomfortable. He mentioned his fiancée's family was traditional and kept changing the subject whenever I brought up specific wedding details. I asked if everything was okay, and he assured me it was fine, but he seemed distracted the whole time. When I tried to discuss bachelor party plans, he quickly shut down the conversation. Fast forward a bit, and I received my wedding invitation via email rather than formal mail like other guests. I found this out later. The ceremony details were vague, just saying, church ceremony, 2 p.m. I texted my brother for clarification and he replied with details coming later. Things got stranger when I ran into one of my brother's friends at the grocery store. He mentioned bachelor party planning and seemed confused when I said I hadn't been involved. That's how I discovered someone else was organizing it, and I wasn't even invited. When I tried calling my brother several times afterward, the calls went straight to voicemail. I sent a text asking what was going on and received a vague reply about being super busy with wedding stuff. When I asked directly about the bachelor party, I didn't get a response for hours, and then just, oh yeah, keeping it small, just local friends. Later, I saw social media posts of that bachelor party weekend that had already happened. My brother and 12 friends had gone to a cabin for the weekend and I wasn't invited. I texted him asking what the hell, and he replied that he thought I wouldn't be interested. This was clearly BS. The final wedding planning meeting was at his fiancée's parents' house. When I showed up as scheduled, everyone seemed surprised to see me. His fiancée's mother made a comment about, not everyone needs to be involved in every detail. My brother pulled me aside and dropped the bomb that they'd restructured the wedding party. I was no longer best man. His fiancée's brother was taking that role. He claimed it was politics with her family and asked me to understand. A couple of weeks later, I got a text from my brother asking if I still had my suit for the wedding. When I asked about my role now, he said I'd be honored in other ways, but remained vague about specifics. The wedding rehearsal dinner invitation arrived via text, noting it was for immediate family only. I texted my brother to confirm I was included, and he said, of course. But when I arrived at the venue, the fiancée's mother looked displeased to see me. I overheard her asking my brother why he is here, while gesturing at me. My brother looked uncomfortable and avoided me most of the evening. There was no mention of me in any speeches or toasts, despite being the only other immediate family member besides our parents. About 2 weeks before the wedding, I received a text from my brother with an updated wedding schedule. I noticed my name wasn't mentioned anywhere in the ceremony details. I texted him asking what was going on, and he called me. It was an awkward conversation where he finally admitted I wasn't in the ceremony portion. He claimed his fiance's family wanted a certain aesthetic for the church service. When I pressed further, he admitted I wasn't actually invited to the church ceremony at all, the one I had paid $10,000 for. He said I could still attend the reception afterward and that it's not personal, and asked me to understand. I was stunned. I called the church to verify my booking status. They confirmed I was still the official booker and financially responsible party. I requested a meeting with the church administrator for the next day. During that meeting, I explained the situation and showed all my payment receipts. I asked about my rights as the person who paid for the venue. The administrator informed me that I could modify or cancel the booking at any time until 3 days before the event. I texted my brother asking one last time if I was welcome at the church ceremony. His response? Look, her parents are really traditional and they're paying for most of the wedding. They want certain people there and certain people not. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. You'll still be at the reception, which is the fun part anyway. I responded, so I paid $10,000 for a church ceremony I'm not allowed to attend? His reply, don't make this about money. It's her special day. The next day, I called the church and canceled the booking completely. I requested a refund to my credit card, which the administrator confirmed and processed. I sent a screenshot of the cancellation confirmation to my brother with the message, no church, no problem. Have fun finding a new venue with 1 week's notice. My phone immediately blew up with calls from my brother, his fiancée, and her parents. I silenced my phone and ordered takeout. I wasn't in the mood to deal with their drama. The next morning, my brother went from yelling at me to begging me to undo what I did. His fiancée blamed me for destroying her big day, and her parents were threatening me with legal action like I was supposed to be scared. I sent one reply, you don't get to ban the person who paid for the venue. Good luck figuring out the rest. Then I blocked every number. A few mutuals reached out after that. Someone said I went too far. Others said they would have done the same. I ended up posting a short explanation online. FYI, I paid $10,000 for my brother's wedding venue and was told I wasn't allowed at the ceremony. So I canceled it. That's it. Some thought I should have just sucked it up for my brother's sake. Others were appalled at how I'd been treated. My parents called, clearly upset, but unsure who to blame. I forwarded them the text messages proving my side of the story. On what would have been the wedding day, I discovered through social media that they had scrambled to book a small event space. The wedding went ahead with a scaled-down guest list. The photo showed a clear, stressed couple and a much less fancy venue than the church would have been. I turned off my phone and enjoyed the day at the lake with friends. I don't regret my decision. If they didn't want me at the ceremony, they shouldn't have accepted my money. Simple as that. My brother chose his fiancé's family over his own brother, and I chose not to pay for something I was excluded from. Some family members think I should have been the bigger person and just let them have their perfect day. But I disagree. I'm not a doormat, and I'm not an ATM. The $10,000 was returned to me, and they got exactly what they paid for. Nothing. Update. It's been about a month and a half since my original post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for the supportive comments. I didn't expect this to blow up in the way that it did, but reading your responses helped validate that I wasn't crazy for standing my ground. The day after the wedding, I woke up to an email from my brother calling me petty and jealous. He claimed I've always been competitive and couldn't stand to see me happy. Classic projection. About a week later, my parents invited me to dinner. I should have known it was a setup for mediation. They spent the entire meal trying to convince me to make peace with my brother. I showed them all the communication evidence, the texts where he explicitly told me I wasn't welcome at the ceremony I paid for, screenshots of the payment receipts, everything. They were genuinely shocked at his behavior, but still pushed for reconciliation because he's family. I declined to make any moves toward fixing things. The ball's in his court, and I'm not chasing after someone who treated me like an ATM. My brother tried to contact me through a gaming platform we both use. His message claimed his wife's parents forced his hand, and he had no choice. According to him, I should have been the bigger person and let them have their perfect day despite being excluded. I responded, you had choices. You chose her family over your own brother. I chose not to pay for something I was excluded from. He sent back a long paragraph about family loyalty, which was rich coming from him. I blocked him there too. Then I received a handwritten letter from his mother-in-law. The audacity of this woman knows no bounds. Her letter stated I revealed my true character and confirmed their concerns about me. Apparently, I was excluded because they sensed I would cause problems. Talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy. They create a situation guaranteed to cause conflict, then act surprised when conflict occurs. My parents hosted Sunday dinner and invited both of us without telling either. I arrived to find my brother and his wife already there. The silence was thick enough to cut with a knife, as I considered just turning around and leaving. I decided to stay, but completely ignore them. My brother attempted conversation a few times. I responded with one-word answers and focused on talking to my parents. His wife cried dramatically at one point, claiming I was still trying to ruin things. I finished my food, thanked my parents, and left early. Here's the thing that bugs me the most. I don't think he actually understands what he did wrong. In his mind, I'm the villain for canceling the venue, not for him excluding me from it. He keeps framing me as the being petty about not being best man or not being part of the ceremony. That's not it at all. I wasn't even allowed to attend the ceremony I paid for. That's the issue. I'm not planning to make another update. He literally let his fiancée and her parents hijack his wedding, boot his own brother from the ceremony he paid for, and gaslight him afterward. He's a coward. He doesn't even have the spine to defend himself or his relationship with his own family. He just folds and prays people like you don't notice. Calling you petty? Classic projection from someone who has spent the entire wedding planning saga being petty on everyone else's dime. Imagine being so fragile you need a human checkbook on a leash to feel important. Oof. Do you know someone like OP's brother? Tell us about them in the comments below. Up next, not all heroes wear capes. I, 31 male, let myself into the apartment next to my girlfriend, 34 female, to prevent a fire. She is mad I filed a police report about it. This weekend I was staying over to my girlfriend's apartment. It is a single house split into 2 apartments. Around 8 a.m. I smelled bacon and went downstairs to see if she was cooking some. She had just bought a quarter pig from a local farmer, so I was really hoping this was some of the bacon. Sadly it wasn't, and must have been the adjoining apartment next door. About 11 o'clock we hear an alarm going off next door and don't think much of it. The neighbor, 20s male, is always around odd hours and staying up late, so my girlfriend and I just thought it was just him sleeping through his alarm clock. Shortly after I got up to do some laundry and smelled smoke. I realized the alarm is not an alarm clock, but the smoke detector going off for the last 5 to 10 minutes. I immediately ran around the house to the side of the door leading to the other apartment to see if I could get in. Through the window, I could see smoke and also someone on the other room passed out on the couch. I tried banging on the door to wake the neighbor, but he didn't budge. I am a locksmith and had my picks on me, so I tried picking the door, but could not get in quick, so I ran to the front door, and thankfully it was unlocked. I walked inside, ignored the neighbor on the couch, and followed the smoke. Turns out the bacon I had smelled at 8 a.m. along with a giant omelet were both on the stove, 3 hours later burning. I turned off both burners, took care of the burnt food, and then went to check on the neighbor. The neighbor was out. It was clear this was either alcohol or drug related, but he was otherwise okay. I let him be and went back to my girlfriend's apartment. The neighbor woke up 15 minutes later and we could hear him moving around just fine. He never came over to say thank you. The part where this gets messy, since I'm a locksmith, I know what I just did could be considered breaking and entering or trespassing. I'm pretty sure this would be covered by Good Samaritan laws, but I wanted to avoid having it become a problem. It would be very hard to keep my job as a locksmith if I had either of those charges on my record. Later that day, I left my girlfriend's and filed a police report to cover my butt, just in case. Last night, I was at the brewery with my girlfriend, and she had planned to drive us back to her place where my vehicle was. I had been drinking enough where I was not going to drive. I told her about filing the police report, and she immediately got visibly upset and left the brewery without me shortly after. I ended up having to take a cab home and one back to my vehicle at her place this morning. My girlfriend is now telling me we need to have a talk tonight, and is otherwise giving me the cold shoulder. I can only assume she is upset that I filed a police report and the neighbor and landlord might get upset. My question is, how can I talk to her to help her understand what I did was to protect myself and my livelihood? Also, if anyone can help me understand why she is so upset about this, I would really appreciate it. Let's see what advice the community has. First one, I can't even begin to imagine what she thinks you did wrong. The OP replies, that's where I'm stuck too. The only thing I can think of is she didn't want to cause a scene or get anyone in trouble and thinks by me filing a police report, I'm not taking her feelings into account. Someone else says, what are relations like with you guys and her neighbor, or her and her neighbor generally like? Neighborly? Friendly? Awkward? The OP replied, the neighbor I don't know, and from what she has told me, she barely knows. He isn't around much, but when he is, you know it. Slams doors, plays loud music, and is generally that annoying neighbor you shy away from. Someone else suggests, at least tell us this sort of behavior is uncommon and unusual for her? The OP replies, that is a good question. Normally she is steady as a rock. Lately though, she has been less so. 2 weekends ago, she stormed out in the middle of our weekly friend game cooking night. She came back later and apologized, but still. Update. Wow. So we just broke up. We talked for about 15 minutes on the phone and she accused me of not taking her feelings into account since someone asked we started dating off and on last summer and finally became a couple at Thanksgiving. Here is the bombshell I mentioned might be coming in the comments. We are scheduled to leave on an already paid for vacation to the Caribbean for a week together in just over 2 weeks. We talked briefly about it on the phone and decided it would be best if we give each other some time and didn't talk about it just yet. This is where I would love some help and feedback. The relationship may not be repairable at this point, but I still think she's an amazing girl, and I want to see how much damage control I can do to prevent this from being worse for either of us than it needs to be. Let's see what some other people said in the comments. She didn't want to be with you anymore, and this was the excuse. The OP replies, considering the conversation I just had with her, I'm inclined to agree with you. Some more details from the OP on the conversation. The conversation went like this. You don't respect my feelings and I'm done. At which point I talked to her for the remaining 14 and a half minutes about why she would get that impression and trying to explain that my actions were not meant to be selfish. There was a little bit of back and forth during the time, but her argument felt to me like it had too many holes in it to be everything. And like many other people said, I think she was just looking for a way out. Morning after update. After some social lubricant and talking to a lot of random people on here and at the brewery last night, I've come to a conclusion. Even if there was more going on like many people have surmised, the relationship is over. There's no point in me holding on to it and letting it get me down. Today is a new day. I'm going to make it a good one and not look back. I know there are going to be issues with the vacation, but I will handle those as they come. I will make sure to update you all and ask for advice when I need some. Today, I need some clarity and to be away from the subject, so don't expect a lot of updates today, but I will try to stop in from time to time. I also have to say thank you all for everything you've said. There are so many of you that helped me find a peace of mind that I otherwise would have had much more trouble with. A special thanks to the people at the brewery last night who, without knowing it or not, really helped me through all this. A bit later update. So I'm sitting here with a close friend and he tells me that since Thanksgiving he could tell things weren't the same. This is the same person who told me she makes me a better person and was a big part of why I dated her. I really do feel like I was blind to what was really going on and not truly believe this was either an excuse or the start that broke the camel's back kind of situation. Update. Since we broke up, we haven't talked much, but agreed to talk about how we are going to handle the Caribbean vacation tomorrow. That won't be happening, it looks like. Tonight, I got an email that she canceled my flight. I started doing some digging and was able to find out that she is now going on the vacation with her ex-fiancé. You guys called it that there was more going on. I'm cutting all contact with her so I can have a clean break and move on to the next part of my life. By the way, anyone know of a fun place to travel with my flight voucher from the canceled ticket? I'm in the US. Let's get this straight. You literally ran into a burning apartment to save a stranger's life, stopped a bacon-fueled inferno, and filed a police report to protect yourself. And that's the hill she's dying on? Meanwhile, she cancels your flight, goes on a Caribbean vacation, and decides her ex-fiancé is a better travel buddy than the guy who just prevented a potential house fire. Let that sink in. She clearly has zero grasp on reality. You just dodged someone who would rather throw a tantrum over a smoke alarm than thank you for saving lives and preventing disaster. That's not a girlfriend. That's a walking headache with a Caribbean tan. Bye-bye. What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. Oh, and please put your chair back where you found it.